All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. And today we're going deep on the potential dangers of AI.
Yeah, a lot of folks are talking about AI right
Right.
now. We're not really focusing on all the good stuff that it can do. We're looking at
The risks.
the risks, exactly.
And this deep dive is going to be based on an article from Built In, which is a website for startups and tech companies.
Right.
It's called 14 Risks and Dangers of Artificial Intelligence.
Yeah, they really just lay it all out there. Everything from, job displacement and
Right.
social manipulation and AI and weapons to, the possibility of AI becoming self-aware and getting out of control.
Yeah, it's a little unnerving to think about some of this stuff, especially that 30% of jobs could be automated by 2030.
Yeah, 2030 is right around the corner.
Yeah, it feels very, very close.
And we think about AI taking jobs, we often think about like robots and factories,
Right.
but this is impacting white-collar professions too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're talking law, accounting, medicine,
Yeah.
Across the board.
So what happens to all the people who have these jobs that are
Yeah.
just kind of disappearing?
It's a huge question, and that's why, upskilling and retraining is so important.
Yeah.
But it's not a simple solution, It's not as if like a burger flipper can just become a software developer overnight.
Right.
Like we have to figure out how to prepare people for this transition.
Yeah.
And that may even mean things like, looking into universal basic income because things are going to change in a big way.
It feels like we're at this point where there's this massive societal shift happening,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just aren't even aware.
It's scary, and that leads us to another danger, the potential for social manipulation, particularly with deepfakes.
Deepfakes are so crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember I saw a deepfake video a couple months ago,
Oh, we live.
and I was totally fooled. It was so convincing.
Yeah, it's really unsettling to think that, you can't even trust what you see or hear anymore. Like it could be totally fabricated and meant to spread misinformation or influence your opinion.
And it's actually happening already.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The article mentions the Philippines election back in 2022, where they were using deepfakes to sway voters.
Yeah, and that's happening because the way social media platforms are designed.
Yeah.
The algorithms that choose what we see, they create these filter bubbles, where you just see more of what you already like. So it just reinforces your bias.
So we're basically being manipulated and we don't even realize it.
In a way, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
and it's not just deepfakes, it's the algorithms themselves that are choosing what we see and what we believe, and that kind of leads us to this problem of algorithmic bias.
Yeah, I think everyone's felt that at some point, like you're being judged by an algorithm.
Yeah.
Whether it's like getting a loan or even just job recommendations.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
they're making decisions about my life.
Yeah.
And I don't even understand the criteria they're using.
Yeah, you're not alone in feeling that way. And it's a real concern because it can make existing inequalities in our society even worse.
Right.
Imagine an AI system that's used for hiring, but it's been trained on data that shows that men are more likely to get hired for leadership roles.
Oh, yeah.
So the AI might just unfairly favor male candidates, even if they're not as qualified as the female candidates.
Yeah.
So
Perpetuating that bias.
exactly. Yeah, and it's really hard to even detect a lot of times. It's very subtle and pervasive, and it affects decisions about everything from loans to the criminal justice system.
Yeah, the article talks about this Princeton professor who warns about that, that the AI bias can be so hard to spot
Right.
and that it's affecting everything.
And a lot of the data that's used to train these AI systems comes from a very small part of the world.
Right.
The article mentions that 90% of online higher education materials come from the EU and North America.
So we're just like embedding Western biases into the core
Exactly.
of AI.
That has huge consequences. And it's not just about fairness, it's about making sure that AI doesn't make these inequalities even worse.
So we've talked about job displacement, deep fakes, algorithmic bias. What's next on the list of AI dangers?
Well, if you thought deepfakes were bad,
Oh.
let's talk about AI being used for surveillance.
Oh boy. Big Brother is watching, but now with AI eyes.
That's a little creepy, but it's not that far off from the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, governments and corporations are increasingly using AI for things like facial recognition, predictive policing,
Right?
and data collection on a massive scale.
Yeah, that brings up a lot of questions about privacy,
Absolutely.
data ownership. Who has access to this information? How's it being used?
Right.
What are the safeguards against abuse?
Those are the exact questions that we need to be asking.
Yeah.
And the article points to China's use of facial recognition as a pretty extreme example of how AI can be used for social control.
It's like something out of like a dystopian novel or something.
Exactly, and it's a good reminder that we need to be careful. Even in democratic societies, these technologies could be used to erode our privacy and our freedom.
Okay, so we've covered job displacement, we've covered deepfakes, we've covered algorithmic bias surveillance. It's starting to feel like a sci-fi thriller gone wrong here.
Yeah, and we're just getting started.
Oh no.
Next, we're going to talk about the existential threats posed by AI, including the very real possibility of autonomous weapon systems.
Okay, so now we're talking about killer robots. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, it's not a great thought.
This is getting really scary.
It is unsettling, and we've seen what happened with nuclear proliferation, and some experts think that autonomous weapons could be just as dangerous.
Yeah, I'm starting to get some Terminator flashbacks, and they're not pleasant.
I get it, and it's not just science fiction. Thousands of experts have signed an open letter asking for a ban on these killer robots.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think the question that everyone's thinking about is, could AI actually become self-aware and decide to turn against us?
It's a scary question.
Right.
And there's no real scientific consensus on whether AI could become truly sentient.
Right.
But just the possibility raises some really big ethical and philosophical questions.
Yeah.
We're talking about the possibility of AI surpassing human intelligence and taking control, and that's straight out of our nightmares.
Yeah, that was the big story a while back. The Google engineer who said that chatbot LaMDA was sentient.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big deal.
It caused a lot of controversy, and although a lot of experts disagreed with him, it shows how worried we are about this.
Yeah.
That AI could get out of control.
Okay, I need a minute to process all this.
Yeah.
We've gone from, AI taking our jobs to AI wiping out humanity. This is a lot to take in.
It is, but remember, we're not totally helpless in this situation.
Okay, good.
We can choose how we shape the future of AI, and that's what we'll be talking about next.
Okay, because I could definitely use a little bit of hope right now.
I hear you. Don't worry, we'll discuss how we can reduce these risks and make sure that AI is used for good, not evil.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Before we get to the solutions, the article actually highlights another risk, and it has less to do with, Terminator and more to do with Wall Street.
Oh, okay, so what's the AI threat in the financial world?
Well, imagine AI algorithms that are making split-second trading decisions, suddenly triggering a global financial crisis.
Wait, are you saying AI could cause the next market crash?
It's not impossible. Algorithmic trading is already a huge part of the financial markets.
Right.
These algorithms analyze tons of data and make trades way faster than any human could.
Right.
But the problem is these systems are kind of a black box.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people who design them don't always understand how they'll react in extreme situations.
So we're basically giving control of our financial system to machines that we don't even fully get.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk we have to think about.
That sounds kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and because global markets are so interconnected, one wrong move by an algorithm could cause this ripple effect.
Right.
And, lead to a huge crash.
So what can we do about it?
Yeah.
How do we regulate these algorithms without, stopping innovation?
That's the challenge, right? Finding that balance, we need more safeguards and transparency. Maybe stress tests for the algorithms, kind of like what banks go through.
So basically putting these algorithms through simulations to see how they would behave if things got crazy.
Exactly, and this requires, everyone working together, policymakers, industry experts, and regulators. We can't solve this in isolation. We need open communication, and we need to be ready to adapt as the technology changes.
Okay, so we've